for the next few minutes, and we will be starting promptly at 6. My apologies. Excellent. Jen, are we doing a raffle?
Yes, a raffle, and everyone is gonna be here. They will get a free gift from us, and
Excellent.
everyone who will stay up until Q&A, they will get they will be entered to a raffle.
Wonderful. Great.
It's a one-on-one coaching call with any of the BCBA.
Excellent. Any BCBA. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, welcome everybody. Hello. Hello, my name is Melissa and I will be hosting tonight's webinar. Thank you all for coming. Again, my apologies for anyone who has been here for a few minutes. I was having some technical difficulties, so I had to start a different way. And that's why we were live a few minutes early, even though we had not started yet. So my apologies to anyone who has been sitting, waiting, and wondering why the presentation is up, but we weren't starting. That is why we wanted to give everyone the opportunity to come at 6 o'clock as we had instructed. So thank you for joining us. I did want to mention that everyone who attends tonight's webinar will be receiving a gift from CFOC, and everybody who stays through the question and answer period will be entered into a raffle to win a 30-minute one-on-one session with the BCBA of your choice or with the coach of your choice. So, wonderful prize. Please stay throughout the question and answer period. For any new people to our webinars, welcome. If you have not attended a webinar with us in the past, let me just explain the format. We will be doing a brief presentation. Tonight, the topic will be using differential reinforcement of other behavior, otherwise known as a DRO, to reduce unwanted behaviors. After I complete this presentation, I will open it for live questions and we will be able to do some coaching. So if you have questions and you will not be able to stay through the live question and answer period, please post those questions in the Q&A box and I will answer them at the end. Otherwise, hold those questions until the end, then raise your hand and I will be more than happy to answer your questions after the presentation has completed. And then we'll do the raffle and we'll see who wins the one-on-one 30-minute session with the coach of your choice. Without further ado, let's start the presentation on using a DRO to reduce unwanted behaviors.
I remember when I got pregnant with my daughter, I felt so grateful and so blessed. And my life up until that point had been pretty rocky. I'd had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and I finally thought that I was turning a corner and God was blessing me with this beautiful gift of a child. And I was just, yes, finally something was going in my way. And then when she was born, she was just absolutely perfect. I had all of these dreams and expectations for her. I thought of all the things that I thought she was going to do. Yeah, good girl. Right after her first birthday, I started to notice her behavior change. She went from, saying map. She was obsessed with Dora the Explorer, Mama, Dada. She was saying it all. Good girl, say map. Hit all of her milestones up to that point. She walked at 1. She was eating solid. She just, she looked really good. And then I just remember her, it felt almost overnight or very quickly where her demeanor just changed. She went from this super happy baby to crying and tantruming, just frustrated all the time. And I remember saying to my mom one day during one of these years, she was like, where did my happy baby go? But I didn't think anything past it. I think I was kind of not ready to fathom that something could be off, even though maybe the telltale signs were there. Let's try Cheerios. Okay. Dressed. Honey, gotta get dressed. Gotta get dressed, honey. Time to get dressed. She started to lose the words that she had gained. She wasn't saying mama anymore. She wasn't saying ma'am. She just seemed really disconnected from us. Instead of playing with her toys, she would take them, dump them all out of her toy box, and just start twisting them around her hands needlessly with no intended purpose. really kind of in denial about it. And then I remember one day we were in the middle of a store, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she just like started like screaming and yelling like somebody had slapped her. I don't even know what the problem was, and I was so mortified. I didn't even know what to do. I was so scared. I literally just left the half full cart in the store, picked her up, and just ran out of there. I never went to that store again. I just didn't even know what to think. And that was probably the first time it really kind of stung for me that maybe something is wrong. They diagnosed her. They didn't diagnose her right away. They said that, she was too young for a diagnosis. I didn't even know what they meant when they said that. I was like, diagnosed for what? I just had no idea what they were talking about. And then they said, we'll come back in if you're not seeing progress. I said, okay, and a couple months later, I'm watching these speech therapists play with her on the floor. I'm not seeing any progress. It felt like she was getting a little worse. And then we went for our 2-year-old wellness visit, and the doctor said that she was behind if she wasn't using 20 words with intent. And that was probably just a knife to my heart. At that point, I really couldn't deny that something was up with her anymore. So then I called the county back in, and then she was diagnosed on the spectrum. And I remember that day, and it was worst days of my life. It was my darkest hour. I could easily say that. As a mother, as a woman, as just a human being, it was probably one of the hardest times I had ever gone through. And I remember just being I went from being so happy with God, so thankful, to being so pissed at doing this to her and wrecking this beautiful gift he had given me. And for a while there, I struggled. I struggled to figure out what this meant, or what we were going to do, or how this was going to define her. All those dreams I had for her future were just completely shattered, and I had no idea what was going to happen next. And I went from just hopeful to just complete blank when I thought about the future. One night I was thinking, I'm going to die one day, and who's going to care for her like her? And something about that thought just snapped me out of my depression and my anger and my fear and said, listen, we got to get to work here. I promised that when she was born, I was going to be the best mother I could be to her. And that promise hasn't changed. In fact, she needs more now than ever, not less. She needs me now more than ever. And I didn't know at the time what we were capable of, or what having those changes, that mindset shift for me was going to do. But I wanted to know that at the end of every night, I could look myself in the mirror with confidence and say, do everything you could, Michelle, to give her the best possible life. And if the answer was yes, then that was a good day. And I wanted the answer to be yes, 100%. And no matter where the cards fell, I know I could leave this earth saying I gave her everything I had, no regrets. And as I've navigated this world with her and walked away that day after having that thought, I really just grabbed the bull by the horns. I became her fiercest advocate. I'm not a special education master's degree teacher. I never had any formal training in ABA, but I knew that I was going to learn whatever I needed to learn to be really strong for her. And Juliana lost all of her language. Cheerios? No one Cheerios. Okay. She was nonverbal when she was diagnosed. Show me what you want. Okay. We taught her sign language. Show me. Juliana, show me. Good girl. Then she went from sign language to word approximations. Then she started to speak. Say, I can't be. She was in the most restrictive preschool environment. She was in 614, most restrictive preschool, special education preschool environment you could be. to now where she is almost 8 years old. She's in the second grade class in a gen ed school, integrated class with typical peers. She speaks beautifully now. What did you like about the troll experience? She has a personality. She has conversation skills. There's still things that we need to work on, but for the most part, her future went from black to now having possibilities. And none of that could have happened had I not kind of gotten out of my own way and really hit the ground running and started to take action for her. And I can't say that I can do that for every parent I coach, but what I can tell them is I will have them feeling like I did, looking myself in the mirror, you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I was everything I could be for her today. I have no regrets. And whatever happens, happens. It's really for us as parents to know we fulfilled the duty that we promised when we had these children. This is the best versions of ourselves to live, to raise these children. I've helped now hundreds of mothers, coach them one-on-one to do the same things I did, to help them to be strong, to help them to craft plans where we're seeing constant progress. This is what I want to do. I want to give you the chance that Juliana's had. I want to give you every opportunity for your child that has.
Today we will live a day of happiness. Thank you, and great times. Happy birthday, love kid.
I love that video every time we show it. So how do we get you guys in the same spot? How do we get you guys looking yourself in the mirror every day and feeling like it's a good day because you gave 100% of what you could give for that day? Well, these things are part of it. Coming to the workshops, booking a call, coming to our other parent groups, having more access to the coaches, all of those things together will really help give you guys the skills that you need to get your kids to the targets that you want to see them achieve. So let's talk a little bit about some of the strategies that we may need to use when your child is engaging in some behavior that you want to reduce, some inappropriate or maladaptive behavior that you want to see less and less and less of. And some of those behaviors you're not going to want to see at all at some point. Well, one of the strategies that we can use is called differential reinforcement. Differential reinforcement is when I reinforce the behavior I want to see, and I do not provide reinforcement for the behaviors I don't want to see. Okay, now reinforcement is just the act of providing a reinforcer, a reward, something that is highly motivating for your child to an individual after a behavior in order to increase the future probability of that behavior happening again under similar circumstances. So again, reinforcement is when you provide some object, activity, praise, token, point, smile, pat on the back, whatever it happens to be, you provide that to your child immediately after they have done some behavior that you want to see happen again. And just the process of you giving them that preferred item or activity right after they did a particular behavior makes it more likely that that behavior will happen again under similar circumstances. In some instances, you may differentially reinforce a more desired behavior with a more potent reinforcer and a slightly less desirable behavior with a slightly less desired reinforcer as a part of a plan to shape behavior. Okay, so what does that mean? When we're talking about differential reinforcement, all that really means is that we're going to provide different reinforcement to different kinds of behavior. Okay, so if this is a behavior that we really want to see happen again, we're going to reinforce that with a powerful motivator. If this is a behavior we don't want to see happen again, we reinforce that with a less powerful motivator, okay? So let's give an example to clarify a little bit. If you're trying to teach a child to echo, imitate you verbally, to say the word mama, you might choose to give the child 1 car when he says ma and 10 cars when he says mama, assuming that more cars are more reinforcing for this child, okay? The strategy works well for toilet training as well. You can differentially reinforce sitting on the toilet with a lower preference item and producing, either urinating or defecating on the toilet with a higher preference item. Okay, so what does that mean in real life? Let's use the toileting example. You're trying to get your child to sit on the toilet and urinate or defecate. Okay, and then let's say if you have a little boy, then we'll teach him to stand and urinate, because initially, if you are working on the bowel movements and they might urinate at the same time, so usually we start with sitting and then move to standing. Okay, so the ultimate goal is to get your child to urinate in the toilet, but they haven't really sat on the toilet before, and you want to increase that. You want to get them to sit on the toilet and either pee or poop. But the ultimate goal isn't to get them to sit on the toilet. But if they're not sitting on the toilet, they're not going to be able to pee or poop in the toilet. So you want to give them, you don't want to give them the same reinforcer for sitting as for pooping or peeing, because you want the pooping and peeing to stand out as, we'll say eliminating from now on, okay? You want the eliminating to stand out more for your child, okay? You don't want them to think, well, I'm going to get this thing and I like this thing, and that's kind of enough, right? Just for sitting. I don't have to put forth the extra effort to do anything beyond sitting because I'm already getting what I want. You want to have something the child wants even more for eliminating, because eliminating is harder than sitting. And if you've attended any of my presentations in the past, you know that I always say reinforcement has to be proportional to the effort it takes to do a behavior. So if a behavior is easy for a child to do, you can use a lower preference reinforcer. You can use something they want, but not something they're going to do backflips about, because this is an easy behavior for your child to do. For a more difficult behavior that's going to take more effort, more concentration, more work on your child's part, you need to have a bigger payoff for them. You have to motivate them in some way to do more than what they are already doing. Okay, so that's the whole basis of differential reinforcement. You want to provide a better motivator for your child, and to provide that motivator only when they're doing something equally hard as the motivator is reinforcing or motivating. So if this is this motivating, then you can ask the child to do something this hard. If it's only this motivating, you can't ask them to do something this hard. You have to ask them to do something this hard, okay? It has to match. So differential reinforcement is all about, if your child is doing something new, something for the first time that you want to see happen again, or they're doing something with fewer prompts, so you had to physically prompt them and now you only have to gesture and they're doing it, or you don't have to prompt them at all and they do it, well, that's a bigger effort on their part, and you should give them a bigger payoff for that, right? If your boss came to you and said, listen, I need you to work both days over the weekend, even though you only work Monday through Friday. And if you come in Saturday and Sunday, you're still going to work a full Monday through Friday week before and after that, I'll buy you lunch. That may not be motivating enough for you to go and work Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday through Friday with no break. But if your boss said to you, listen, I need you to come in after you work Monday through Friday, I need you to work Saturday and Sunday, but if you work Saturday and Sunday, you can take off 3 days during the week. Well, now it's more motivating, right? It's a bigger payoff for doing something that's more difficult, right? It's the same thing with your child. So better responses equal better reinforcement. As I said, the reinforcement has to be proportional to the effort it takes for the child to do the behavior. So better responses are things like more independent task completion, so fewer prompts or lesser prompts, less intrusive prompts. So you're going from physical to gesture, or gesture to visual, or verbal to visual, etc. Or a closer approximation of a targeted skill. So saying ka for car instead of just making the k sound, okay? That's bigger, that's harder, that's a better response. Better reinforcement could be things like having more time with the reinforcing item or activity. So you get 30 seconds instead of 10 seconds. You might get a higher quantity of the item. So you get 5 M&Ms instead of 1 M&M. You get access to a better item. You get the big trampoline instead of the mini trampoline. You get access to the iPad, which is usually restricted, access to candy the child is otherwise not allowed to have, etc. So better responses equals better reinforcement. That's differential reinforcement in a nutshell. Now that you understand differential reinforcement as a concept, let's talk about one of the different kinds of differential reinforcement strategies you can use. There's a lot of them. You can use differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, differential reinforcement of appropriate behavior, differential reinforcement of lower rates of behavior, differential reinforcement of higher rates of behavior. There's a lot of different kinds of differential reinforcement that you can use. I'm going to teach you tonight, we're going to go over differential reinforcement of other behavior. This one is relatively, I think, the easiest one to start with, because what you're really doing is reinforcing the absence of a behavior that you don't want to see. Okay, really in a nutshell, that's what DRO is. And from now on, I'm not going to say differential reinforcement of other behavior. I'm just going to refer to it as DRO. So DRO reinforces any behavior other than the unwanted behavior. This is usually done by setting a time interval. And if the inappropriate behavior does not occur at all during this time period, reinforcement is provided. So, for example, you want to eliminate your child's spitting during baseline, which just means before you start intervening at all, you're just going to count how many times this behavior happens, okay? And then you're going to come up with a rate. So you're going to count how many times this behavior happens for 1 hour. Every time the behavior happens, you're going to mark it down. And then at the end of that period, you'll now be able to figure out the rate per hour, or you'll be able to translate that into a rate per minute, okay? So for this example, let's just say in baseline, the behavior happened about every 2.5 minutes, okay? You decide to use a DRO on a fixed interval, 2-minute schedule to reinforce the absence of spitting. That means you set a timer for 2 minutes. Now, the reason I chose 2 minutes is I was taking data on the child's behavior, what that data might look like. The child spits. I now set a timer counting up, okay? And every time the child is not spitting, the counter is going up. As soon as the child spits again, I'm going to stop the timer. I'm going to write down that amount of time. So it was 2.4 minutes, okay? Now I'm going to start the timer up again. Again, as soon as a child spits, I'm going to stop the timer again. This time it was 30 seconds. Now I'm going to start the timer again. And as soon as a child spits, I'm going to stop the timer and write that down. This time it was 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay, I'm going to keep doing that till the hour is up. Now I'm going to add that all up and I'm going to take the average. Okay, and with this particular data, we're going to assume the average was every 2.5 minutes, but it's an average, which means sometimes he could have gone under 2.5 minutes. Sometimes he went longer than 2.5 minutes. So I know on the average, he can go 2.5 minutes. I want to make sure that when I'm starting a new program, he's going to be successful and he's going to understand this program as best as possible. So I want to start with 2 minutes because I know if on the average he can do 2.5, chances are he can do 2, at least some of the time. And I want him to do it at least some of the time so he can see the difference between when there's no spitting until the timer goes off, I earn something. And when there is spitting, the timer resets. But I get ahead of myself. Okay. So I choose the 2-minute interval. I now set a timer for 2 minutes. And for every 2 minutes during which spitting does not occur at all, there's no spitting during that 2-minute interval, the child earns a reinforcer. If the child spits during the 2-minute interval, the timer is reset to 0 and the interval begins again. The child earns reinforcement only after 2 consecutive minutes of no spitting. That is a very clear signal to your child, okay? You set a timer for 2 minutes. If there is no spitting until that timer goes off, you earn whatever it is that you're working for. If you spit while the timer is counting down, I immediately stop the timer and start it over again. That's a clear cue to your child that, oh, I just spit. And as soon as I spit, immediately after, you stopped the timer and reset it. As long as you do that consistently over a little bit of time, your child is going to pick up that pattern that every time this comes out of my mouth, that timer goes back to 0. And I don't want the timer to go back, goes back to 2 minutes. And I don't want it to go back to 2 minutes. I want it to get to 0. Because when it gets to 0, I get what I want. Okay. So very powerful. There's a visual cue, there's an auditory cue, and there's that contingency. 2 minutes of no spitting, and you earn whatever it is that child is working for. Okay. This strategy works well for toilet training as well. Oh, sorry, that was taken from the other slide by mistake. Okay. Now, using DRO. With a DRO, you are reinforcing the absence of the behavior, which is easy to implement because you aren't looking to reward a specific behavior. Rather, you provide reinforcement at the end of an interval that was free of the target behavior. So when we're using like DRI, differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, you have to wait until your child does something that they can't do at the same time. So if it was hitting, I might only reinforce them when their hands are in their pockets, because if your hands are in your pockets, you physically can't be hitting somebody else. But I can't provide that reinforcement until the child has his hands in his pockets. I have to wait for that. With DRO, as long as the hitting doesn't happen while that timer is counting down, they earn a reinforcer. It's easy for you, it's easy for the child. Win-win, okay? For a DRO, it's also really, really easy to use if you don't yet know how to figure out the function of your child's behavior. In general, we need to know what the function of the behavior is. What is the payoff your child is getting from this behavior? We usually need to know what the function is in order to change it. Is your child doing this to escape doing something? If so, we know how to address that. Is your child doing this to get attention, even if it's negative attention? Well, if so, we know how to address that too. Is your child doing this in order to get some object or activity that they're interested in the moment and can't have? Well, if so, we know how to handle that too. And is it happening because for some sensory reason, because it feels good, smells good, tastes good, looks good, etc.? And if so, we know how to fix that too. With a DRO, you don't need to know what the function is because you're just reinforcing its absence. So again, it's a really simple procedure for someone who's kind of like at the beginning of getting training, before you need to know all of these other concepts and all of these other strategies in order to implement some of the more complicated interventions when it comes to reducing behavior. But DRO is very simple. You don't need to know the function of the behavior. Okay, you can use DRO for behaviors that are multiply maintained because sometimes the behavior happens in order to escape, but sometimes it happens for attention too. So for those behaviors, DRO works great. Or if you don't know what the function is, or you're not sure how to figure out what the function is, You do not need to know the function to use DRO, but if you do know the function, it can help in teaching appropriate replacement behaviors. So if every time your child does a behavior, they turn around and look at you to see how you're responding, chances are it's an attention-seeking behavior. Now, we don't need to know that to implement the DRO, but that tells me if I want this behavior to stop long-term, not only do I have to reinforce its absence, but I need to teach the child a different way to get attention when they want attention. So I could teach them to raise their hand, to tap somebody on the arm, to say their name, to use their PECs, to use their AAC device, to sign, whatever communication strategy they're able to use, okay? That helps me figure out the replacement behavior. But just to reduce the behavior in and of itself, a DRO, you do not need to know the function. Now, since the reinforcement is given only if there's no occurrence of the target behavior, other challenging behaviors might occur instead and become reinforced. So you need to really kind of keep an eye out for that, right? So if the child is not spitting, but they scream instead, or they're no longer hitting, but they're pushing somebody, okay, as an example. So we just have to kind of keep an eye out that those other behaviors, that new behaviors aren't taking its place, which is why it's so important for us to teach the child something to do instead to get the same outcome. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Let's talk a little bit about implementing the DRO, right? So if you happen to know what the function of the behavior is, or if it's easy to figure out what the function of the behavior is, that's always a great first step. But when you're using a DRO, you don't have to. That's why that first step is in parentheses, because it's optional with a DRO. Then you have to identify the reinforcer that you're going to use in the DRO. It has to be something that the child only gets for this program. So if it's their most favorite thing in the whole wide world, like the iPad, but you also use the iPad when you need your child to have an independent activity, then it's not a good idea for the DRO. You have to come up with something else, okay? So you want to identify the reinforcer that you're going to use. Now you can use a break, which you can either take a picture of a timer or the word break or the sentence, I want a break, please. Again, depending on where your child is at, so they can see exactly what it is they're working for. The next step is to choose the DRO interval. So as I described before, you want to take some baseline data. And all that means is you want to figure out approximately how long in between behaviors, okay? So on the average, how long does your child typically go without engaging in the behavior? Because if on the average, it happens every 2.5 minutes, another way to say that is on the average, 2.5 minutes passes without that behavior happening. Okay, so we have to, and then based on that information, we want to choose our first interval to be either what the average is or a little bit less. So we could have chosen an initial interval of 2.5 minutes in our previous example, but I wanted to be safe. So I chose 2 minutes. You could either, like I said, choose the average or a little bit less than that, because we are going to build back up. The next step, deliver the reinforcer for the absence of the problem behavior for each interval. So if you decided your interval is 5 minutes, you set the timer, and as long as the behavior does not happen until that timer goes off, that child earns that reinforcer, okay? And you do it, and then once they're done with the reinforcer, you reset the timer and you do the next interval. And then when they have that reinforcer, you set the timer and you do it again and again and again and again, okay? So the occurrence of the problem behavior resets the interval for the delivery of the reinforcer. All that means in plain English is if the behavior happens while the timer is counting down, stop the timer and reset the interval. So if the interval is 5 minutes and at minute 3 and 30 seconds, the child engages in the behavior you're trying to get rid of, stop it and reset that interval to 3 minutes, okay, to 5 minutes. So it starts over again. because the rule is your child has to go blank consecutive minutes without this behavior to earn the reinforcer. Now, if you see your child is never earning the reinforcer or doesn't earn it within the first 4 out of 5 opportunities, lower the interval. You're asking too much. You need to reduce it so that you're sure that they're going to get reinforced like 4 out of 5 times, especially at the very beginning. Eventually, when we extend the interval, we want them to see the difference between when the behavior happens and you don't get the reinforcer and when the behavior doesn't happen and you do get the reinforcer. But at the beginning, we just want to teach your child, like, when the behavior doesn't happen, great things happen, okay? Then, once we see that your child is earning that reinforcer most of the time, now we're going to gradually increase that interval. So if my initial interval was 2 minutes, I can make my next interval 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. When they're done doing 2.5 minutes, I increase to 3 minutes. Once they're getting reinforced for most of the time at 3 minutes, now I'm going to do 3.5 minutes. If they suddenly stop earning their reinforcer most of the time at 3.5 minutes, I'm going to drop down to maybe 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Maybe I took too big of a jump. Okay. So you're going to gradually increase that interval. You're going to use instructions where appropriate. Now, again, you don't have to give instructions, but this isn't something that we're trying to trick your child or have them figure it out by themselves. If they understand the rule, you can tell them the rule. You earn blank when your mouth is dry, if you're trying to get rid of spitting. You get the iPad when you keep your hands to yourself, if you're trying to get rid of hitting. You always want to phrase it, not in terms of what you don't want the child to do, because that doesn't really tell me anything, right? If you say, Melissa, don't hit me, and I kick you, I didn't hit you. I followed your rule, okay? So if you can use an instruction that tells me what to do instead, keep your hands and feet to yourself, well, now I know I can't hit you, I can't kick you, like I can't do anything with my body against your body in an aggressive way, okay? So tell the child what you want them to do instead of what you don't want them to do. So instead of saying no echoing or no repeating or no stimming or no TV talk, you might say, you earn blank when you have a quiet mouth, okay? If your child is repeating things over and over again, you're trying to get rid of that. You earn blank when you say things one time only. Okay, so if they understand the directive, please present it. As soon as you start that interval, that timer, you can say, you're going to earn the big trampoline if you keep your hands to yourself until the timer goes off. Like, if they get that, tell them. We're not trying to hide anything here, right? If they don't understand the direction, you can still say it to remind yourself of the rule for them to eventually understand what that means. Or you can just set the timer and show them the timer. When the timer goes off, they get their item or activity. And through repeated practice, they'll figure it out. I promise you, they will figure it out as long as you're consistent. It's not fair to expect them to figure out a rule if the rule is always changing, okay? So let's talk a little bit about token economies and DRO. You might consider including some kind of token economy in your DRO procedure. This allows your child to receive attention and acknowledgement for a shorter interval while seeing progress toward the backup reinforcer. So as you see on your screen, there's a box next to I am earning. Whatever the child is earning, I'm going to put a picture of it and Velcro it into that box. If they understand reading and what words mean, they have that comprehension, I might write in trampoline or iPad, or I'll use a picture or a PEX. Whatever it is that they understand, I want them to see what it is they're going to gain access to through the system. Now, I also put a visual, safe hands. For this child, we're using the words safe hands, and we're showing a model of what safe hands looks like, an example of what safe hands looks like, which is just keeping your hands down on your desk. But any occurrence of safe hands is being reinforced. So safe hands earns a star. Now, it's a DRO, so I still have to follow all of the original rules. I'm going to take my baseline to see about how long the child can go on the average without hitting. Now I'm going to set my initial interval, and I'm going to set my interval for 2 minutes. But the child is earning access to the big trampoline, and I don't necessarily want to have to take them out to the big trampoline every 2 minutes, okay? It would be easier if I could take them out to the trampoline every 10 or 15 minutes. That's more manageable. So how do I get them to work for 10 or 15 minutes, for 10 minutes, when they can only go 2 minutes? Well, I can use tokens. So for every 2 minutes that the child keeps their hands safe, they're going to get a star. And they're going to see how many stars they need to get before they earn access to that item or activity. So now we can build up, and those stars keep going, right? So if they've earned star 1 and star 2, and then on star 3, while they're earning it, I have to reset that interval. All that happens is it takes them longer to earn star 3. They don't lose the first 2 stars. It doesn't mean they're not going to earn all 5 stars. It just means it's going to take a little longer because I had to reset this interval. So if my timer is 2 minutes, if your behavior is perfect, you could earn access to a reinforcer after 10 minutes. If your behavior isn't perfect, it might take 11, 12, 13 minutes, depending on how I have to reset the timer, okay? Now, another way that you could use a token system with the DRO, again, to provide that visual input so your child understands the whole system that we're implementing, you could say, okay, my interval is 5 minutes. So if they can go 5 consecutive minutes, I'm going to give them 1 star after every 1 minute. And that way I know they've gone 5 minutes and then they get access to their item or activity. Now, again, it depends on the behavior. It depends on how often the behavior happens. You might start all the stars over again if you want them to go 5 consecutive minutes, or you might just build up to that. And again, if the behavior happens and you have to reset the timer, it just takes them longer to earn that next star, okay? So you could do it either way, depending on the child, depending on the behavior, and depending on what's realistic for your family. If it's not realistic for your family to practice this and be able to take your child out every minute, or give them access to an item or activity, say like you're using the iPad, but it's really hard to get that iPad back away from your child. You might not want to be taking it away every minute, right? So you might want them to earn 5 consecutive minutes, and then they can have access to it for 5 minutes, and then it's easier to take it away from them, okay? This is all very individualizable. So I'm going to give you like a general way to do it, but if you need to tweak things a little bit to make it work best for you, that's fine, okay? Now, I'm also going to show you an example of using what we call a DRO puzzle contract. Now, this is just a different kind of visual, a different way of like using tokens and different tokens that we can use. So for this particular child, he was reinforced by this particular toy. It's a giant yoga ball that he could sit on and bounce up and down. He loved this thing. So I took a picture of the yoga ball and I made a black and white photocopy of that picture. I laminated the black and white copy so he could see the ball all completed and put together. Okay, and then I took the color copy, I laminated it, and I cut it up into 4 pieces, okay? That way, the child can see where each piece of the picture goes and what it's going to be when it's all put together, okay? I collected baseline data to determine the intervals that I will use initially for this particular child, okay? After collecting my baseline data, I determined that the behavior occurred on the average every 4.5 minutes. So I started the intervals at 1 minute per piece, which would equal 4 minutes before reinforcement is available, okay? If the timer doesn't need to be reset, you can earn the ball in 4 minutes, right? So to start, I'm going to show you, I have an example of that very contract right here. So to start, I take all 4 pieces off, all 4 pieces of that picture off. And now what you have is the black and white picture of the ball, right? I start the timer counting down from 1 minute. As long as there has been no occurrence of the target behavior until the timer sounds, the child earns a piece of the puzzle. Good, keeping your hands to yourself. And I gave him a piece of the puzzle, right? Now I start the timer counting down for another minute. As long as there's no occurrence of that target behavior, when the timer goes off, great, keeping your hands down. I give him another piece of the picture. So he could see the picture is building. When the whole picture is complete, he gets access to the ball, okay? If while he's working on, I reset the timer, right? It's counting down from another minute. After 40 seconds, he uses his hands inappropriately and he smacks, okay? Now I just reset the timer to 0. I stop the timer. I reset it to 1 minute. And that's all. As soon as he stops doing whatever he was doing that was inappropriate with his hands, I start the timer counting down from 1 minute again. Again, as long as there's no occurrence of hitting till the timer sounds, he earns a third piece of his picture. I start the timer again, counting down from 1 minute. And again, if there is no occurrence of that behavior, he gets the fourth piece and he has earned all pieces of the puzzle, and therefore he can have access to this item or activity. Okay, now I added a little extra level of reinforcement here. In order to increase the motivation to earn the puzzle pieces, I added an embedded differential reinforcement contingency. The number of times the timer needs to be reset affects the time that he has access to the reinforcer. So as you can see, I have it written right on the back of the puzzle contract, right on the back, it's written there. And you can see it more clearly on your screen. It says 4 pieces in 4 tries equals 5 minutes. What that means is if he earns all 4 pieces in only 4 tries, which means I did not need to reset the interval at all, then he or she gets the, well, for this child, it was a he gets the most amount of time with the reward, 5 minutes. So if I don't have to reset the timer at all, he gets to bounce on the ball for 5 minutes. He worked for 4 minutes, he gets the ball for 5 minutes. Pretty good deal if you ask me, okay? Now, under that, it says 4 pieces in 5 tries equals 2.5 minutes. That means I reset once, okay? I removed 1 piece. So if I had to reset the timer 1 time, as I did in my example, the child earns the reward for 2.5 minutes, right? I want perfect to be double. I want perfect to really stand out. If I don't have to reset the timer at all, you earn double, like you get 5 minutes. But if I have to reset it 1 time, you get it for 2.5 minutes. If I have to reset the timer twice, 4 pieces in 6 tries equals 2 minutes. If I have to reset it twice or remove 2 pieces. So if I had to reset the timer twice, otherwise I had to remove 2 pieces of the puzzle, I had to, stop the timer twice, the child earns a reward for 2 minutes. So I have to reset the timer once, you earn it for 2.5 minutes. If I have to reset the timer twice, you earn it for 2 minutes. And if the timer needs to be reset more than twice, the child earns the reward for 1 minute. So if I have to reset this 3 times, by the time once you do earn it, you only get the ball for 1 minute. If I don't have to reset the timer at all, when you do earn it, you get the ball for 5 minutes. That's what I mean by differential reinforcement. It's harder to go 4 consecutive minutes with no occurrences of hitting. It's easier to go 2 consecutive minutes, hit, go 1 consecutive minute, hit, go 1 consecutive minute, and then get the ball. But if that's what happens, I only get the ball for a minute. Okay, because I have to reset the timer more than twice. Make sense? I hope it makes sense. Okay, while I'm using the DRO, the puzzle contract, we want to encourage appropriate replacement behaviors. We want to minimize any attention for engaging in the target behavior. So I recommend using praise when the child earns a piece, but you want to phrase it in such a way that it doesn't mention the target behavior, but could mention other appropriate behaviors that occurred instead. So for example, if the behavior is aggression, when the child earns a piece, I might say, I love the way you kept your hands to yourself. If the behavior is elopement, I might say, I love the way you stayed near me. As I mentioned before, we want to tell the child what to do. We don't want to focus on what they should not be doing. Like, You didn't earn a piece because you ran away. It's too convoluted. It's too many double negatives. Like that's hard for grown adults to follow sometimes. So let's make it as simple as possible. Okay. You kept your hands to yourself, you get a piece. You stayed by my side, you got a piece. That tells the child what they should be doing. When you reset the timer, you might also want to give feedback, but again, try to avoid naming the behavior. So if the behavior is aggression and I had to stop the timer while they were earning this piece, I might say, once I'm ready to reset the timer and start the timer again, I might say, you earn pieces when you keep your hands to yourself. So again, I'm telling the child why they didn't get that piece, why I'm resetting the timer, but I'm also telling them what they need to do in order to keep that timer going, right? I'm not focusing on the behavior. I'm not giving that behavior any attention. What you feed grows. Remember that, okay? So if you're feeding appropriate behavior through reinforcement, that's going to happen. That's going to grow. You're going to see more of that. If you start to feed the inappropriate behavior by commenting on it or attending to it, that's going to grow as well. So if I'm like, oh, I had to reset that timer because you hit your brother and you know you're not supposed to be hitting, that might be enough to reinforce the behavior. So he might not care as much about the item or activity that he's earning as much as he cares about controlling the authority figure. And as I always say, don't give up. It can be complicated to reduce problem behavior, and it can be complicated to use differential reinforcement strategies, especially at the beginning. There's a learning curve for you to get used to using a new system. You're not going to be perfect at something new that you're trying most of the time. So cut yourself a break. Don't punish yourself if you're not perfect. Use it as a learning opportunity and just try to do better next time. Your child has to learn that there are new rules and that you are sticking to them, and he or she may not like it. So if you are having difficulty using the strategies that we were discussing tonight, please consult your local BCBA, book a call, speak with us, be part of our program, and then you get real access to us all the time. You can post your question or comment or difficulty on the Facebook, the message board that we check all the time. So in between presentations, we can give you feedback. So if we do a presentation, say every Thursday for our parent group, in addition to these workshops that we do, if we're doing a group parent training every week, say on Thursdays, and you try and implement that strategy on Friday, and now all of a sudden you have a question, we don't want you to give up. We don't want you to practice it incorrectly. We don't want it to not work for you. And we don't want you to have to wait all the way from Saturday through Thursday to get that feedback that you might need in order to use that strategy more effectively and see some progress over that week. So you could just reach out to us on the Facebook message board and bing, bam, boom, you get the answer to your question. And that way you can try it on Sunday. And now you've got a few days of practice, and then you come back to the next parent group on Thursday and you're like, thank you so much for that suggestion. It was very, very helpful. And this is where we're at now. What's the next step? Okay, so please book a call, be part of our program on a regular basis, and that way you can reach out to us when you need some help or advice. But if you do have an ABA team in your home or you have a BCBA there and you're having difficulty implementing these strategies, tell them we're trying to use a DRO. This is what we're using. This is how we're trying to use it. It's hard. I have a question. Can you please give me some advice? Okay, you can do that as well. But it's always best to get the advice from the people who recommended it. So book that call, reach out to us on the Facebook group, reach out to us as much as you need to, come back to our parent groups every week and ask your questions there as well. We do like 3 trainings a week, and I'm going to discuss that in just a moment. So I say book a call. The reason I want you guys to book a call is because that way you could become part of our masterclass program. We have a great program. Champions for Our Children Masterclass. And we want you to be a part of that. So some of the reasons that we really think this program is going to be beneficial for you We understand some of the things that you want for your child. Things that you want for your child are, you want to hear your child be able to speak. You want to hear their voice. That's one of the main things that most of our parents indicate as a main priority for them when they join this program. You want a child who can use the bathroom, who's not in diapers. You want a child that doesn't tantrum or get aggressive with you or with other people. You want to have a deeper relationship with your child so they can share their thoughts and dreams with you. You want your child to be able to go to any school, any extracurricular activities, camps without their autism diagnosis, making it impossible. You want to drop off and go at a birthday party or a sleepover or at the movies, etc. You want to be able to enjoy a family vacation. So it could be a vacation for you too, because usually they're not. You want to enjoy holidays, parties with family and friends without having to hover or explain away your child's behaviors. Another big priority for a lot of our families. You want to know that when you're gone, when you're no longer here, your child can be independent. Like Michelle said in that video, she realized one day she's going to die someday. And who is going to take care of her child better than her mom, right? She needed to teach her child to be independent so she doesn't have to rely on somebody else taking care of her. You want to know that when you're gone, your child will be independent and won't need to rely on somebody else to care for them when they are vulnerable. You want your child to have a strong connection with their siblings, their family, and their peers. Here are some things that we know you guys want for yourself. You want an unbreakable connection with your child. What parent wouldn't? You want peace with the diagnosis, and you can have that. You don't want to believe that autism is a death sentence, and it's not. You want to feel it in your bones that you didn't fail your child, and you can. You want to know that you left no stone unturned. You want to know that your children will remember their childhood and say, Mommy, Daddy gave me an amazing childhood. You want to live every day knowing that if you died tomorrow, you gave 110%, you'll have no regrets. You want to know that you're raising a happy, healthy, self-regulating child or children that grow to be happy adults. Why join our program? Well, we provide personalized strategies for exactly where your baby is at. We get you a potty trained child. We have a 100% success rate with that. You will start to reconnect to your child because communication is finally in place. We're going to get to the root level of your child's problem behaviors and treat it, not just treat the symptom, but treat the function, the payoff, the root cause of that behavior. When life happens, we will help get you back on track. If a regression happens, we will tell you exactly how to handle it and prevent it next time. We're going to learn from trial and error rather than quitting on our kids, because the only true failure is quitting. We're going to teach you how to build that champion mindset so you'll no longer have to worry about autism every minute of every day. Doesn't that sound amazing? And then you'll get your independence back too. So what we offer as part of our masterclass is a 3-month group coaching program with guaranteed results. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So what you get when you join CFOC, you get potty training, you get communication, you get stopping problem behaviors, you get social skills, you get the picky eater protocol, you get mindset training, you get stopping eloping, you get building out every month. You get lifetime access to the self-study vault of courses. You can do it in 30 days, or you can take your time because you have lifetime access to the web portal. So if you are looking at something and then a few months later, you have to go back and review it and refresh, you can, because you have lifetime access. This collection of program is what makes this program the Harvard of autism, without a doubt. Now, 3-month group coaching program, again, with our guaranteed results. Now, what you get when you join, like I mentioned, you get lifetime access to the self-study vault. It has our Champions Masterclass, courses on the big 3, and other autism-related topics. You get 3 to 4 live group coaching calls where you get to learn from the experts, like Michelle, who is the autism mom and life coach, and you'll come to call on to craft out a personalized plan for your baby. You'll get access to BCBAs like Armando, myself, Stacy, and Julie. You'll learn how to get your child to the big 3 with effective ABA strategies that you can do at home with your child or children. There we are. You get a mindset coach to help keep your mindset in a place where you stay determined to help your baby. And there is Risha and Riza, and she is awesome. And Holly, you're going to love Holly. My God, we have the best people here. Again, what you get when you join, you get the self-study vault, lifetime access. You get the 3 to 4 group coaching calls where you learn from the experts, and you get monthly specialist calls. What do we mean by that? Well, we have a registered dietitian who is an autism mom, Greer. You will learn so much from Greer. If your child has feeding issues and GI problems and issues with bowel movement, stuff like that, like she is a registered dietitian. She will give you so much information, okay? She's also an autism mom, so she's been there, done that. And the speech language pathologist, who is also an autism mom, who has been there and done that and taught other parents how to be there and do that. Jessica, she's awesome. Everyone gets their questions answered. So whether it's a speech issue or a feeding issue or a behavior issue or your frustration and anxiety, whatever it is, we've got specialists designed to handle those specific issues. Okay, so what else do you get? You get the self-study vault, lifetime access. You get your 3 to 4 live group coaching calls. You get your monthly specialist calls, and you get that private Facebook community I was talking about before. You never feel alone again. You post what you need. We check that group daily, or you can email directly when you join your family, and Michelle will get back to you right away. Your baby is our baby. Okay. Support is truly our North Star. Okay, so what are you getting in this program? You're getting your lifetime access to the self-study vault. You're getting 3 to 4 live group coaching calls from the experts. You're getting monthly specialist calls. You're getting a private Facebook community with people who know what you're going through and access to specialists who know how to help you. And you can email Michelle in between calls or at any time. Now, this is what I meant with the guaranteed results. Satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. This is our action back guarantee. If after 90 days, those 3 months that we discussed, if after 90 days you do not get the results you came for, you stay in the program until you do, or you get your money back. How do you like them apples? Money back guarantee, guaranteed results. That's what we're offering you, okay? So if you are coming to the group coaching and you're coming to the monthly coaching calls and you're doing your part and you're still not seeing that progress, then you might just need a little extra time and we will give that to you. And if you're like, no, I don't want the extra time, I want my money back, well, then you'll get that too, okay? Or instead, I should say. Book that free call now, okay? Go into the chat box, click on the link, book a call. You will speak to one of our specialists, and they will be able to tell you exactly what we can offer you for your child, for your individual issues that you're having. So you might call and go, my child is 18 and still not potty trained. Am I somebody that can benefit from this program? And we are going to say, absolutely, because we have toilet trained teens, later teens, young adults, older adults. We have done it, okay? So we can help you. Book that call now. You will get access to all the help you need. You're calling and you're like, my child will not eat. They don't eat solid food. I don't even know. They'll choke. They'll gag. I don't know what to do. You book that call, we will help you. Absolutely. We can help you with that. We've got a registered dietitian. We've got BCBAs. We've got the mindset coach. We've got a whole team that has helped other kids learn how to eat different foods, solid foods, chew and swallow, use utensils, cook their own meals, the whole 9 yards. Whatever it is you're looking for, we will be able to help you. Book that call. We will help you. The link is in the chat box. Please go there now and click on it. Okay. So Michelle's time to book calls is limited. So if you can't find time and you're interested in learning more about the masterclass, just email Michelle. Okay. So take a screenshot of this slide right now or jot down Michelle at michellebrodgers.com. That is MICHELLE at MICHELLEBROGERS.com. Okay, so if you can't book the call, you can't click on the link, you are watching this later, you're reviewing the video, and for whatever reason you can't get to the link or you can't click it, just email Michelle and she will tell you how we can help you and you can discuss all the details with her. Okay, so when you email, we just want you to answer 3 simple questions in that email. First, how old is your child and what is the biggest struggle you're facing as a parent with a child diagnosed with ASD? Number 2, what have you tried to solve for it? Okay, so what have you already done? And why do you think it hasn't been working? So again, take a screenshot of this slide or come back to the video and review it later, or just jot down these 3 questions right now. So if you are going to email Michelle at michellebrodgers.com, you're going to answer these 3 questions. How old is your child? What is your biggest struggle as a parent with a child diagnosed with ASD? What have you tried to solve it, that biggest struggle? And why do you think it hasn't been working? Why do you think this still is a biggest struggle? Why haven't the things you've tried to address that struggle not been working? Okay, include all those things in the email. Michelle will get back to you, and then you guys can set up time to chat.
So I guess I wanted to start asking you, what were your biggest struggles prior to joining the program?
You know, I was going around and looking for organizations. I was looking for help.
So I started looking up online and I'm like, I really need somebody who's been through.
There's no access to any kind of services over here in Ireland. Googling stuff and trying to find something.
I joined because I had a 3-year-old autistic son, so I knew I had to do something that I didn't know what to do.
Everything seemed to be waitlisted or just not available. To break it down to him, I had to have somebody break it down to me.
And that really got me worried. It got my husband worried, thinking, okay, we need to speak to a PD.
I think my biggest struggle was understanding their potential. I actually didn't know, like I was kind of relying on just the speech therapist.
I came in just feeling very helpless, very confused. What can I do now that I haven't already done? You know, what would be the harm? What can I lose?
Before participating, we weren't making as much progress. It was slow progress.
I believe that I found you on Instagram.
She is very turned off by a lot of doctors and therapists and things. I went back and forth and I'm like, she's going to start ABA therapy on this day, and I told them that was my #1 goal.
As everyone would be, I was a little skeptical because of how many times I have tried with Alexander.
On one end, I'm hearing, okay, she's, autistic and, you qualify for a lot of services. And when I go and try to inquire about, we can't service her.
All right, so now, I guess, where are you now? You and your child, now that you've joined the program.
They're doing really, really well. Doing really, really well. I think their ABA program here is wonderful. We got very lucky with that. One word here or there, what it was that he wanted, but not necessarily saying I want it would be apple or this or that. And that has totally blossomed. And now following what the BCBA said, which is starting really small.
Okay, so where I am now is where I kind of know that I'm in charge.
The changes in him in less than 2 months, I think I've been 6 weeks, are miraculous. The behaviors are decreased. The stimming has decreased. The listening to directions has increased. The language has increased.
You know, I just, you know, set those goals for myself and cross them off and, you know, and once I did that for me, turned my focus 100% and, you know, and then I was able to get the work done.
You helped me formulate the confidence in myself that realized I was ready to really go for it. I would not have gotten through it. It went so much better than I ever could have imagined.
You know, I started listening to tips for Michelle. He's doing so much better. More eye contact for sure. We're working on talking, on saying some words.
Yeah, it went really well. Like again, the tips you guys gave me, it doesn't seem like this big impossible thing.
I just been given something so precious.
He's more verbal, right direction, and I'm so happy to be part of this program.
We never in a million years thought that it would happen this early.
He's making a lot more sounds. He's now at that point where he's no longer frustrated since you and all of the teachers have given me all of the ideas and the strategies.
You know, we all want our children to succeed, and it's just been wonderful.
Would you recommend our program to any moms or dads that are going through this right now?
Absolutely. So yeah, I would definitely prefer anyone to this.
Yes, definitely. You guys need to do this program. It'll change you guys and your child's life tremendously.
100%. I do recommend that you learn something new.
I would definitely suggest to go through this program for at least first 4 to 6 months.
This program has allowed that, and I'm really grateful for that.
Take this course, you know, do the one-on-ones, listen and absorb everything that this team has to offer.
You guys have a gift. And you're sharing it, and that's amazing.
So I will recommend you to anybody, whoever is out there.
It's been really great. It's been really great. And
This is going to help you. You can learn through other parents' experiences.
Just do it. Don't hold back. Just go all in with your daughter or your son, and I promise you will definitely see results.
All right, guys, that is straight from people that we have been working with that have joined our program. So it's very easy to hear me rave about what a fantastic program we have, but that is kind of straight from the parents' mouths, what they feel about participating in this program and what it's done for them and their children and their family. And they highly recommend that you book that call, email Michelle, see what we can possibly do to make your lives better. Okay, well, thank you so much for staying through the presentation, and I will now be happy, to open this for questions. Before I open it for live questions, I just want to take a quick look in the Q&A box because a few parents at the beginning had indicated that they would not be able to stay throughout the presentation. And I did mention if they wanted to post a question that I would try and answer it for them. Okay, so anonymous attendee, how to reduce aggression, temper tantrums in kids, how to make kids follow directions. Well, reducing aggression and temper tantrums, I would use a DRO. That way you don't have to first figure out what the function of that behavior is. Typically aggression, temper tantrum usually is escape, usually is for attention or a tangible. But again, if you use the DRO, you don't necessarily need to know that. So how often is the aggression and the temper tantrums happening? Figure out the intervals in between. Get a timer, set a timer for just under that average or at that average. Show the child a timer. As long as they go the entire duration of the timer without either being aggressive or tantruming, and I would pick one at a time. So I would start with aggression. If there's no aggression, they aren't. If they're tantruming, if they're crying, if they're yelling, they're stomping their feet, but they're not being aggressive, that's okay for this particular program. Once you get the aggression gone, then we can address the temper tantrums as well. If you try and do too many things at once, they're never going to get reinforced and the program is going to work. So one thing at a time, do aggression, then do temper tantrums. Go back, review this presentation, use the DRO and utilize it to get those behaviors to reduce and eliminate. As far as how to make kids follow directions, that's a whole other presentation. We need to find a reinforcer, give them a direction that's initially promptable. And what I mean by that is something that you could help them do until they can do it by themselves. So I wouldn't give an initial direction to say blank, because if they don't say it, there's no way for me to help them to say it. But if I say, touch your head, and the child doesn't touch their head, I can physically help them touch their head, okay? And then reinforce them for that. And then as I feel that I'm not helping them all the way to their head, I can reduce my prompt. So I could fade my prompt back. See, initially I had to go all the way to the head. Now I'm prompting part of the way and they're finishing it. And you're just going to continue to do that until they're doing more and more of it on their own. Okay, let's see. Please continue to have your hands raised. As soon as I look at these couple of written questions, I'm going to go right to live questions. So don't feel that you have to write out your questions to get them answered. I'm just going through the first few questions for anyone who couldn't stay till the end, okay? My son, who is 4.5, screams almost all day, not out of anger, just a high-pitched scream, random. Might be self-stimulatory. I might like the way it sounds or feels. No one can really give me an answer to why, but by the way, he's completely nonverbal. That makes sense to me. Your child wants to use his voice, just like all the other kids. That, like, kids say a lot of words during the day, right? Like toddlers say a couple thousand words a day typically, right? Your child wants to use this whole system. They want to vocalize, but they don't have the words, right? So they can make this scream. This is a sound that they can reliably make. It's like when you're bored and you're whistling or humming a tune or something like that, right? There's no real purpose to it in the moment other than just doing it. That could be one of the reasons why he's screaming, to get that same input that he gets, that somebody else would get from speaking, right? It could also be to get out of something he doesn't want to do, or it could be to get your attention. So in order to know why he's screaming, I'd need to know exactly what happened right before and right after he's screaming, typically. So do you typically attend to him and, oh, we don't scream, we need to keep a quiet mouth, what's the matter, what do you need something? Like, that's attending to it. Do you offer him things? What's the matter, honey? Are you hungry? Or are you tired? Are you thirsty? Do you need a walk? Do you want your iPad? Or do you remove a demand? So you say, it's time to come to the table, and he screams, and then he doesn't have to come to the table. So please book a call, because that's something we would need to really discuss more in depth and more ongoing, but we can definitely help you address those behaviors. How to increase joint attention. Again, a much longer than a quick answer, and I want to be able to do that justice. So please book a call, sign up on the email, and I will be able to give you a lot of strategies on increasing joint attention. Zoe Moore, what happens if once the child earns a reward like time with the ball, but after the time with the ball is over, they get upset about not having the ball longer? Well, if they want the ball longer, then they have to earn the contract with fewer resets, because you get the ball longer if I don't have to reset the timer, right? Perfect. 5 minutes. Reset once, 2.5 minutes. So if you want that 5 minutes, you got to work towards not resetting that timer. And once it's time to come off the ball, show them the contract. It's okay, honey. Look, you're going to get to earn the ball again. I would also recommend using a timer for the time that the child is on the ball, so that they start to learn. With the timer, when the timer goes off, I earn my pieces. When I earn all my pieces, I get time with the ball until the timer goes off again, and then I leave the ball and we start all over again. It's all about consistency. If he cries and gets upset about not having the ball longer, and then he gets the ball longer without having to earn it again, he will continue to cry and scream and get upset to get the ball longer. If he gets upset coming off the ball, but he still sees he's got to earn the ball back, and even if he's upset and crying, he doesn't get the ball until he earns it with the contract, the screaming will go away. Scout's honor. I am definitely interested in using DRO, Elizabeth Mitchell. However, Sam is starting with an ABA therapist next week. I feel like I need to wait until we get going with them before I start incorporating anything new. Hoping to book a call in a couple of weeks, if that's okay. Elizabeth, that's absolutely okay, but the sooner the better. So we can give you some strategies and some suggestions on things that you can do between now and the time the therapists start, the ABA therapists start, and then we can kind of coordinate together and kind of work together with the strategies that we're giving you. You share with them, and that way we're kind of all working on the same thing in the same way. We could also focus on the parent training piece while they're focusing on teaching Sam some of the skills, and then we can teach you how to incorporate those skills, how to handle the behavior, like all the pieces just blend together like a puzzle. So please don't let the fact that your therapy is starting next week stop you from seeking out help right now if you need help right now. But of course, it's always okay to call us at any time. I would just recommend the sooner the better. The sooner you start a new program, the sooner you start doing new habits, the easier it is to continue with them. And the faster your child will reach those goals. How to make child more verbal? Well, again, we have tons of presentations on that in and of itself. So I don't want to just answer that in a brief 30-second off the top of my head. That is a very complicated issue, and there are a lot of variables involved. Please book that call so we can talk about all of those variables together. Good afternoon, Amanda from Maryland. How much is the 3-month program? Again, please click on the link, book that call. I'm doing the clinical part of this, but Michelle does the administrative part of it and the money part of it. So please, I don't want to give you the wrong information. Click on the link. Email Michelle. You are not obligated to anything by just booking the call or sending out the email. Just shoot that email over or book that call, and they will give you that info, and then you can make a decision as to whether or not this will work for you. I need to book my call now. Absolutely, Amanda. Please book that call now. Let's see, is neuropsychological testing a requirement for seeking assistance? My granddaughter's physician states she has to have testing done before being referred to ABA therapy. So, Tanya, all that means is if you are referring your grandchild, if your grandchild is being referred for services, before they can decide exactly which services will be most appropriate for your child, they need to do a multidisciplinary assessment. That way the school will provide, or your district will provide whatever services are necessary. So maybe they need more speech, maybe they need some OT, maybe they need occupational therapy, maybe they need some physical therapy, maybe they need ABA, maybe they need some feeding therapy. They probably need a combination of all of these things. But you do not need that in order to book the call, because what we're going to do is we're going to give you parent training strategies, and all of the things that we suggest are all based on the principles of human behavior. So they don't just work for kids with autism, they work for everybody, for typically developing kids, teens, adults, kids with disabilities, kids without disabilities, spouses, significant others, everybody. Okay, so we can definitely help you, but before your district will approve services, they will get a multidisciplinary evaluation. They'll have a psychological, a physical, speech eval, OT eval, PT eval, etc. And you are welcome. So, oh, Elizabeth Mitchell, you are in the masterclass already. I'm so glad to hear that. So any additional questions or any issues that you have, please bring that up the next parent group meeting, and I will be more than happy to answer those questions. So now that I have gone through the written question and answers, I would like to open this up for live questions. So please, I see that we do have a couple of hands raised already. I'm just trying to click on that so I can see that. Okay, so I see Karen Quigley has her hand raised. Karen, if you are available and you still have a question, please unmute your mic and I would be more than happy to help you. Karen Quigley, if you would like to have some live coaching, please unmute your mic and I'll be more than happy to answer your question. And if you are not able to ask your question right at this moment, or if your question has already been answered, I will move to the next person on the list in a moment or two. And if you do still have a question, I will again reach out to you before we end questions for the evening. Okay, I see your hand is down, so that answers that. Let's see, Amanda Shelton. I know I did answer some of the questions that you wrote in the Q&A, but if you do have a live question, please feel free to unmute your mic and I'll be more than happy to answer anything that you have to ask. Amanda Shelton, if you are there and you have a question, please feel free to unmute your mic. Okay, I'm just going to assume that your questions were answered in the Q&A. And if not, I will again give you another opportunity after I get to some of the other people who do have their hands raised. Okay, let's see. Mandy Ernie, do you have, if you want to unmute your mic, I would be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Mandy Ernie or Ernay. You just have to unmute your microphone and then I will be able to answer your question unless it has already been answered or you are for whatever reason not able to ask that question at this moment. Let's see. Mandy, are you there? Oh, hi.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi. I can hear you.
Okay, good.
What can I do
wasn't
for
sure
you?
how to unmute the mic, and I was.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I hit a button. I might have to go back to those other people and hit that button for them too. They might have been trying to speak to me. I'm doing it a
Okay.
little differently tonight because I had some technical difficulties, so that might be why. Okay,
No
what can I do for
worries.
you? Thank you.
So I have a 9-year-old, high functioning autistic boy, and we are having a lot of difficulties with behaviors, with toileting, with eating, with you name it. It seems like it's literally all coming up to a head right now.
Okay.
And we are.
Do you have
we,
home-based services? Do you have any ABA services at home
so
currently?
we do have ABA services, but unfortunately, as of today, we just lost them because we lost our secondary insurance, the medical assistance. So I am trying to get that back. But
Okay.
until then, they are not allowing us to continue with services.
Okay.
We've had them for probably about 4 years, 4 or 5 years. And we've had the same, our aide or the person that comes to the house, we've had him for a good 3 years. So now we're going back to nothing now. and
Is
so
that
we're
when these issues started to escalate or was it before you lost the services?
unfortunately no, it was before services. So we were actually going to try to like kind of figure out services and hours and try to, work on that. And I mean, my goal is to try to get him or work on potty training in the summertime because he's in school. So I don't want to take away the pull-ups. He's in pull-ups. I don't want to take away the pull-ups in school and have more issues.
Right. Right.
So we were going to
and the
do
summer
that.
is a great time to work on it because it's very easy to be kind of like naked except for the except for the pull-up or except for the underwear. Because once we start toilet training, we really want to go to underwear instead of a pull-up. But if you're worried about cleanup or messes, you could put on underwear and the pull-up over the underwear. So if there is an accident, your child will feel the wetness against their skin, because don't forget, a pull-up in a diaper is designed to pull the wetness away from the skin. So your child might not feel it or be uncomfortable. So if you have underwear against the skin and that is wet, that's much easier to feel. And then the pull-up over it will just save your couches and your rug and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he doesn't really care. I mean, it seems like he doesn't care if he's wet or dirty, because if we don't make him change, or if we don't change him ourselves, then he will just sit in it for hours, or he'll want to sit in it for hours. So, and that's kind of like a sensory kind of thing. He seems to not have that kind of sensory issue with that per se.
Right. He might be a little hyposensitive in terms of tactile stuff.
Correct. Yep. So, I mean, my biggest thing is, so we use the iPad, to have him sit on the toilet. Now, we've tried getting him to sit on the toilet without the iPad. And it turns into a screaming, yelling, hitting match. And then I usually give in and I say, okay, fine, you know, or like I'll have him go on the toilet and then, he'll call my name and, he'll say, Mommy, I want the iPad. I'm like, okay, give me a minute. And I'll try to like extend it to like kind of stretch it out before I actually give it to him. But what other things, like he's very motivated by the iPad, but he's not motivated by food. He's not motivated by other things. And I'm just like, we're kind of like at a loss of what to use for motivation other than the iPad. And, we will often take the iPad away for behaviors.
And then that kind of ties your hands, right?
And then it ties our hands of like, okay, well,
it sounds like he's got some sensory stuff going on. So you might want to explore some sensory things and see. I have a presentation that I did a couple weeks ago on sensory issues for kids on the spectrum. And there was a lot of information in there on sensory toys and being hypo or hypersensitive to certain things. Try and go on and look back a couple of weeks and see if you could find that presentation, because that might give you some really good suggestions on that. But it kind of, I would say, look towards what he does when he is in free time. Like when there's no demands placed on him and the iPad is not available, what does he do?
He tends to, if it's not an electronic, he'll play with like fire trucks. He's very into fire trucks. He likes to sometimes go outside, depending on if there's a lot of bugs, because he also does freak out about bugs. We've been getting better with water. So I am looking at getting like a membership to a pool for the summer. And I'm hoping that will kind of, but at the same time, the whole potty training kind of thing falls back onto that, because he needs, and I have noticed he does get embarrassed, especially in public, because we were at the dentist and he had a bowel movement at the dentist. And I was like, Orion, did you, and he didn't want me to talk about it. He didn't want me to mention it. He didn't want me, so, I mean, he's getting of that age. He knows that he does it. But he doesn't want to change it though either, and that's
that could just be the sensory issue, coming into play there. So if you're either not able to take him to a pool because you either don't have one or because of the toileting issue, you could also use a bath if you have a bathtub. So you can use a bath or something, or a kiddie pool or something like that, because for kids that have sensory needs, having that water, giving them pressure all over their body, like with equal pressure, can be very calming for a lot of our kids. So that can be very helpful just in and of itself. But Michelle does a really great toiling program and presentation that she's got like so many great strategies for that. I would also recommend maybe using some differential reinforcement here. So you can be reinforcing him with something that's less than the iPad, like maybe with the fire trucks or something, for the behavior that's easier for him. So if it's easier for him to stay dry but harder to sit on the toilet, then I would use the fire trucks for staying dry and more powerful reinforcer for the toilet. If staying on if the sitting is easier than eliminating or staying dry, and you also want to reinforce not just eliminating, but being dry and clean too. So you can have like a sticker chart in the bathroom, sitting, clean, dry, boom, check, check, check. Now you get access to the iPad if you have all three checks. Or you could say, well, if you have 2 out of 3 checks, then you can have the fire trucks. If you get 1 out of 3 checks, then we can, go outside, or we can jump in the bath or something like that. So you can differentially reinforce how many of those things he's doing. I would also recommend whatever the reinforcer is, try and keep it in the bathroom. That way you don't have to like search for it. And it's all about you giving it to him at the time you decide to give it to him. So if he's screaming because he doesn't get it quickly enough, Don't give it to
Yeah.
him while he's still screaming. Wait for
Okay.
that second, even if it's like that screaming and he's and he's taking that breath, like during that, that's
Mhm.
when I'd be like,
Yep.
oh, you're quiet. Here you go. You just don't want to hand it to him while he's actively crying or screaming at you. And you can choose one or the other. You can say, for right now, he won't get it if he's screaming, but crying is okay. Once you see he's no longer screaming, but he's still crying, then you can say, okay, well, now it's screaming and crying. Yeah, he has to wait till he's quiet and then he'll get it. And then you can be like, well, now he has to wait, not just for being quiet for a second, he's got to be quiet for 5 seconds before he gets it. And if he's start crying again, that timer starts over again. And as long as you're consistent about it, he'll get it. But if you continue to give it to him while he's screaming, he's going to get that too. And he's going to know, like, when I'm in a pinch, scream. And I'll get what I want.
And it's, it's very difficult because our family dynamic in the house is very challenging, I will say.
Okay.
Because and he knows who he can get away with things, who he can't get away with things with. Like he can get away with things with me, but he can't get away with it with dad, and or grandma's around, and and she'll step in and do it for him, and so like trying to get everybody on the same page.
As long as initially you are consistent, then he will learn to do it consistently with you. And then once you see he can do it with you, it might be more likely for the other people to get on board, because they might be feeling like, especially grandma, I feel bad for him. He can't really do it. We're expecting too much. I'm just going to give in and make it easier for him. But once you see, oh, wait, he can do it. Well, let's push him. Let's get him to do it. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not like he can't, it's that he won't right now. And then we could also build in reinforcement for him, differential reinforcement. So if you go with mom, you get the mild reinforcer, but if you go with grandma, you get the better reinforcer. So again, eventually we can change that around.
Okay. I'll definitely be calling because, and
are you in our program? Are you one of our CFOC families?
No. I did see Michelle's program for the toileting. And I showed it to my husband and I said, hey, this looks like, let's try this. And he's like, I don't know. And, it's so trying to kind of get a little bit of pushback from hubby. And so I'm trying to, because I see the benefits of this. And but as the one thing that Michelle has always said, you're going to get what you put into it. Yes. If you don't put into it, then you're not going to get anything. And, and I'm a true believer of that. And,
what you feed grows, without a doubt.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of, challenges and just, and I understand where my husband's coming from, the money aspect of it, financially, it's a risk. But as I tell him, I said, well, is it a risk worth taking?
Exactly. And then you get that like ongoing support of being able to say like, here, let me try this. And then it's not just like a 2-minute, question answer at the end of a big presentation. It's like, okay, well, let me spend some time and then we can follow up tomorrow. And then we could follow up 2 days later and I can give you some different suggestions and we can try this and see what piece of it worked. And then I can give you different suggestions. So again, that's something that you guys, have to work out. In the meantime, keep coming to the workshops, keep asking questions, keep letting me know how it goes. I do want to try and get to some of the other questions. It sounds like
thank you so much.
A lot of stuff going on, but please, at least if nothing else, go back at the Facebook, go back and look for some of the other presentations.
I will. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. Karen Quigley, I believe that you will be able to unmute your mic now without me doing anything to it. I think that's all set up now. So if you would like to unmute your mic, Karen, or I'm not sure if I have to, let me try clicking this. Okay, Karen, if you would like to ask me a question, I am available. Oh, are you there? You just have to unmute. Hi, how are you?
Hi. So master class. So, and I was
Awesome.
on last night too, listening to Michelle, and
Excellent.
and so my question is, as a reinforcer though, I thought I'll take the mirrors away because he's obsessed with mirrors. I don't know if it's part of his stimming, but he is obsessed with them, and he's just so happy all the time, dancing and running and looking at himself. And so
Mhm.
I thought, well, maybe what if I take all the mirrors away? And now I'm starting to think it's maybe too drastic.
Yeah, it could be. So what you might want to do is get a special mirror. I've had this issue with mirrors before. I had a kid that was so reinforced by reflections, but he would note there's reflections on everything. If there wasn't a mirror, he would find the reflection on the TV. If we covered the TV, there's a reflection on the doorknob. If there's not a reflection on the doorknob, there's a reflection on my glasses or a reflection in your eye. So you can't always take away all of the stimuli, but what you can do is, again, differential reinforcement. So basically the rule should be, if you are looking in this mirror that I give you, this particular hand mirror that's your special mirror, I will not bother you. I will not redirect you or correct you. You can have that mirror and have the best time in the world. But if you're looking at an unauthorized mirror, then I'm going to redirect you. I might give you a direction. I'm going to bug you. I'm going to bother you when you're looking in the unauthorized mirror. I'm going to leave you alone and encourage you when you're looking in this one. Okay. So once he starts to want that hand mirror more than the other ones around, now you can use it.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to put them all up again because I had like 17 mirrors.
You have to put them all up. You have to put them all up. But if it's too much, you can put up just a couple, and then you still have one special one, right?
Yeah, one
and that's
special.
the one that's the authorized one. And when he's looking in the other ones, if it's the time that we're working for this one, he's looking in the other ones, we're going to bug you. Okay.
Okay.
You're starting to stim in the other mirrors. Nope, you got to go get your hand mirror. So I'm going to bug you. You want to look at your reflection, it's okay, but you can do it here. If it is the reflection itself, then he should accept the other mirror because it's about the reflection. And if you're letting me look here, but you're not letting me look there, I'm still getting what I want. If he has difficulty with the designated mirror, then it's more about the control.
Oh,
and that's
okay.
a whole other issue we could talk about.
But I noticed too, when I took all the mirrors, and I still took them all, they're not back up yet, but I seen him looking like in the chrome on my truck, you know.
That's what I was saying before. The doorknob, the TV, the glasses, your eye, a spoon.
Yeah, and the pictures on the wall. And I seen him doing that, and I was like, oh gosh, darn.
I had a kid that was so severe with the reflections, like it was so distracting and it was so interfering that we actually had to buy this spray that they use for when they're doing photography or filming. It's a spray that you could spray on shiny surfaces and it takes the reflection away, because like when they're shooting, they don't want that reflection. So we actually had to utilize that to start, and all the unauthorized mirrors got the spray and the authorized mirror did not. And that helped a bit, like we had to do the chrome and do all the other things. It took some time, but we got there.
Yeah, I only have him another month. So, I'm kind of panicking right now about getting him through the.
Yeah,
so,
do the best you can. Big reinforcement for, like I said, using like the authorized one and just big bugging him and redirecting to the right one. And like I said, that way you'll be able to see, and you'll be able to tell well before a month is over. You'll be able to see, is it that he wants the reflection, or is it that he wants the control of, I don't want to do what you want me to do right now. I want to do something else. So I'm going to do something that you can't control, like stimming on a reflection.
Yeah, that mirror is like part of his life, when he's upset about something, which isn't hardly ever, but when he does, he goes reenacts it in the mirror, and he wakes up and it's like, good morning.
Yeah, that's not an uncommon behavior, because again, it's something that's out of our control. And those are always the hardest things to fix, are the ones that are not in our control. But try that with like the unauthorized and authorized mirror. Give that a shot like over the next week, and then come back, let me know how things are going. And if we need to, I can give you another suggestion.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good luck. You're welcome. Okay, Abina. Hello, Abina. I see you are on the list with your hand raised. If you would like to ask a question, I'm here. Hi.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Melissa.
How you
I'm so
doing?
excited to see you.
I'm always excited
Good.
when I see your name on the list.
Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. I don't know. I
How's it
put in
going?
the Q and I'm doing well. Everything is it's not easy, but it's going great. I can't complain. And
Good.
I wanted to tell you you remember the training on the behavioral momentum training?
Yes.
He's
Yes.
beginning to wave. It was difficult. So I did some trials, like a number of times, and we still do it when he's leaving the house. We're having wave
Nice.
and he's beginning to wave, although it's not perfect, but
That's okay
at
if it's
least
not
he
perfect.
does it.
He's starting to do it. Nothing is ever perfect when you first start to learn it. There's a
Right.
learning curve, but
Yeah.
over time with practice, that's what makes you perfect.
Yes.
So way
Yes.
to go.
Yes. I wanted
I'm
to speak
so
to
glad
you.
to hear
And
that.
I'm so excited. Yeah, it's been
You
great.
made my whole weekend.
I'm so
Yay.
glad.
Oh,
Now
good.
oh, sorry.
No,
I
I was just
wanted
going to
to
say, is there
mhm.
anything that you do have a question about tonight?
Yes, I do. I do. So at this point in our potty training journey, he does okay. He can sit, pee, poop in the potty. He can go on his own, but there is a few struggles that I wanted to touch base with you. So, when he has the edge, I want to see if this will help. This training that he did will help me in that way. When he wants to go and he initiates, he will come and pull my hand to go with him. And now, right now, I've given myself distance and I'm trying to also fade verbal prompts, which has not been that great because so at this moment in the bathroom is upstairs and it's
Okay.
a few steps before the bathroom. When he wants to go, he always wants to come grab somebody to go with him. The reinforcer is close to the doorway for him to see it. So what I do is I will stand below the stairs and then show some gestures, trying to avoid any verbal prompt for him to go. He will kind of look at me, smile and giggles and will not go. He still wants me to go with him. I I sometimes have not been that consistent by what I mean is I will kind of take a few steps, but I don't go inside with him to the bathroom because I want him to be able to do that on his own. And when I prompt him to go, if I think it's been like 3 hours, he hasn't used the bathroom, that becomes a struggle. He wouldn't go on his own. I end up probably getting closer than I want to and also using verbal prompts. But I still reward him. So if he does pee, if he does pee on his own, I give him 2 gummies, which the gummies is also just in the bathroom. We don't use the gummies, that particular gummy anywhere else. So if he does pee, it's 2. And then now if he does poop, it's 3, whether I drag him there or on his own.
Good.
Yeah, but my challenge is like right now, I want him to decrease the dragging to have somebody go in the bathroom with him.
So what you could do is you might be too far away. So what I would recommend is start 3 steps back from the bathroom. So when he's going to come and grab you, like he wants to take you in there to go, like when during the time, like you said, you were standing at the bottom of the stairs, be like 3 steps. You won't get closer than 3 steps away. Like let him bring you up from wherever you are. You're going to stop 3 steps away from the bathroom. And that way, if he stops too, you can just kind of like give him a little physical prompt from behind to get him to kind of move in there a little bit.
Okay.
You could also have a picture of the bathroom that he has to Velcro onto a match of that same picture that's inside the bathroom. So that way he kind of
I do have that.
Okay, good. So that way he has to kind of go into the bathroom in order to make that match. Now he's in there. Now you can praise for that. You could be like, good, you went to the bathroom by yourself. Good for you. Okay. And now he can get reinforced for going into the bathroom by himself. So if he goes in by himself, he can get one of those gummies. If he doesn't and you go with him, no gummy. So
if I
Same
go with him.
differential reinforcement that you're using,
Okay.
like 2 for peeing, 3 for pooping, 1 for just walking in on his own. And you can drop it in the cup and give it to him at the end. So however many he earns, he gets all of them at the end. So
Okay.
you earned 1 for walking in, I drop it in the cup. You sit down, you pee, I drop 2 more in. And then when you're washed your hands, I give you the whole cup and you have 3 of them.
Okay. Because sometimes it's very tricky. I try to like, okay, you go, just take one and then go. And he just ran away, didn't go again, just grab the gummy and then run off. But
Right. Well, that's
I'll
why I'm saying,
definitely
like, if you
try.
put it in a
Yeah.
cup or something, then you're not going to
That
give
you
it
can-
to him until after he does what you asked him to do. So
Okay.
if he goes into the bathroom,
Sorry.
he's going to
Okay.
get reinforced
Then
for
get it.
that. So
Alright.
it's okay for him to
Okay.
get the gummy right after he walks in. For peeing
Okay.
and pooping, wait till he's done. And then you can either drop him in the cup and wait till he's done washing his hands and then give it to him.
Mhm.
Or as soon as he's done eliminating, then you give him the gummies. But you just hold on to them until he finishes. And then and if he doesn't finish, he doesn't get them. That's just the way it is. But he did get 1 for walking in, and that's okay.
Walking
And
in.
then once
Okay.
you see that he is starting to walk in by himself, when you're still like 3 steps away, then you can go 4 steps away and stop there.
Okay.
Then you can go 5 steps away, but you want to wait until he's starting to walk in on his own. You're starting to reinforce him for walking in on his own. And like I said, you're still close enough where you can give him a little prompt if you needed to. And let me know
Okay.
how that goes.
Okay. Now with the verbal, if it comes, is it okay? Because I can't help myself to say, go, buddy.
It's okay. I understand you can't help yourself, and I understand that, and that's okay. But just try to use the nonverbal as much as you can. But
okay.
if you have to use the verbals every now and then, for this skill, it's not the worst thing in the world, because think about it. Like at school, the teacher might say, okay, everybody, it's time to go to the bathroom. So there will
Okay.
be times he is directed for that. So that's okay.
Okay.
But try and minimize it as much as you can. Just do the best you
Okay.
can.
Okay.
There's no
All right.
punishment here. It's all good.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Makes me feel much
You
better.
can have
All
a
right.
gummy too. You earned it.
Actually, I do. I always take some.
You should. You earned it. You're working too.
Okay.
So
All right.
please
Yeah.
keep me
Thank you
posted.
so much.
I love to speak with you. So please come back again and keep me posted.
All right. We do. Thank you so much.
Got it. My pleasure.
Bye.
Okay, let's see if I can get to, let's see, Caddy. Let's try Caddy. We'll see how many people I can get through. I know there's only a couple left. We're going to try and get through the last 3 if I possibly can. It all depends on how long it takes. So let's see. Caddy Vade, if you are there. Hi. What can I do for you?
Hi, Melissa. So my son is 5 years old, and whenever he goes outside, we have a deck. We used to have like potted plants there and everything. He loves to pull under stems and dig into the dirt. So we took all that away, and just this week, and I replaced it with like nothing. So there's nothing there he can mess around and stim off of, kind of, or sensory issues with the dirt. But now he finds anything that's falling off the trees that fall down, like tiny little things, tiny little twigs, he'll just go for it. And then now, if there's nothing, we have a sliding door. There's dirt in between the sliding door. He's like digging his fingers in there and trying to play with that. So, but I put like balls out there, like tiny with strings attached, so he has something to play with that he does prefer. But ends up always trying to find corners here and there to just keep on digging or finding little twigs.
So you could do a couple of things. You could use a DRO, like we were just talking about tonight, and use it during the times where you're going to be going outside or where he's going to be spending some time near the area where that sliding glass door is. So you can have a very short interval. You could have 30 seconds. You could have a minute. I've done 5-second intervals for some kids, depending on how frequently a behavior happens. So whatever interval you think he's going to be successful at, start there. Set the timer. If he doesn't pick at the dirt, he earned something. Now, what he can earn, I would recommend getting him something that's similar to what it is he's trying to do. While it may not be appropriate to be digging through dirt per se, like you could give him his own little flower pot and let him kind of dig in there, or you could get him kinetic sand. That's a real good thing, or magnetic sand. That's appropriate, and it's good for kids that have sensory issues. because it has that similar texture, but it's appropriate. So
I tried
if
that today.
I'm sorry?
I tried with the sand, the
Mhm.
kinetic, was it sand? So instead of we were outside, I put it in a box and I let him play with it, but then he wants to take it out and like rub it in between the chairs and on the floor. So I was like, no, he has to stay in the box. So if he started to take it out, I just put it away.
Yes, you have the opportunity to use this. And then if it doesn't, you're using it inappropriately, I'm going to take it away. But in a few minutes, I'm going to give you another chance so that you can see when you do it inappropriately, it's gone. But while you're using it the right way, it's there. Right. You might also need to have some like little toys in there too that he can play with. And like I said, it may not be the worst idea in the world to think about maybe getting a big pot with just a little bit of the dirt, potting soil dirt in it, and have him work for that. Like for every, I could put say like in the presentation, I had that 5-star token board thing. Say you had something like that and you took him outside and he just on the deck, right? He doesn't touch any dirt on the deck. You do like 30-second intervals with the DRO. He's not, and you can give him something else to hold in the meantime to make it more likely that he'll be appropriate. And once that timer goes off and he gets reinforced, you can bring him over and let him dig in his potted plant. And then he can give him some things to do, give him some appropriate toys to play with in there, shovel, a little pail, a little cup he could fill and dump out or whatever. Set a timer. When the timer goes off, now we put that away. We come back over to the deck and I give you other toys to play with. And again, as long as you're playing with those other toys until the timer goes off, then we can go back and try again with your plant. And that way you can take it, you can remove it. It's contained. And that's what he really wants. That's the most reinforcing thing right now. So you can use something that a kid is stimming on as a reinforcer for not stimming on it during like unauthorized stimming time until we can find something that's more powerful than that, or till we teach some other skills or find something that can replace it.
Okay.
So I would try that, start there, and then please come back and let me know what happened and which pieces of it worked, which pieces of it didn't, and then we can kind of try the next round, step 2.
So do you think that it'll transfer over to other locations too?
Yes,
Like
initially,
where I
once we
don't
get
have
it under
control.
Yeah, once we get it under control there, then we can have a token board and we can bring it to other places. So now it can be next to the sliding glass doors so he doesn't dig in that track. And then it can be in another part of the house or in another part of the room. But first we want to do it in the area that you can control it the most. And the token board is what shows him like this contingency is on right now. And when the board isn't here, the contingency is off. So you don't have to worry about like being confusing about it.
Oh, okay. So just
You
have
know
a
what I mean?
visual.
So that it's not like on 24/7 because you can't follow that up 24/7, but you could do it for 30 minutes while I have this board here to show you like we're working on this right now.
Okay. Because
Okay.
it's
And if you start to see the difference when you're working on it with the board, then when you don't have it in other areas, then you'll see like it is starting to work. You'll get to see the difference between how much he digs in the other spots and how much he's digging out there. And then we'll really know if that's something that will generalize to other spots.
Okay. Got
Okay.
it.
So give it a shot and let me know how it goes.
Definitely. Thank you, Melissa.
My pleasure. Okay, we have like 2 minutes left. I know there are only 2 questions. I'm going to see if I could try and answer anything really quickly. Let's see. Jay Bush, are you there? If you would like to ask a question, I am available.
Hi.
Hi, what can I do for you?
Okay, so my son is fully potty trained. However, he won't wipe afterwards and he won't ask for help wiping. He'll just get up and then I have to like get a lot of new underwear, because he'll even dress himself afterwards, but he will not wipe.
Okay, can he wipe?
He can, but it's just not as efficient, I guess. So I don't know if he's comfortable with it.
Okay, so the first thing I would recommend is increased practice. Now, the problem with teaching wiping is that if you wait for the natural occurrence of having a bowel movement and then trying to get them to wipe, you might be lucky enough to get one opportunity in a day. Maybe not even
Right.
every day if your child doesn't have a bowel movement every day. So what I do when I practice teaching my kids wiping, pudding or peanut butter. I know it sounds gross, but you wipe a little on their butt and you teach them to wipe it off till it's clean, and a big reinforcer for that. Once he's doing it during your practice sessions, then you can use that reinforcer in the bathroom. So if he has a bowel movement and wipes in the bathroom, then he can have access to that reinforcer. But first you want to practice it outside of the bathroom so that first you know that he can do it. Second, that he can make the association between wiping and getting access to that reward.
Okay. Okay, that sounds awesome.
Give that a shot and then come back and please let me know how it worked out.
Okay, I have one other question. It's a small one.
Sure.
He won't put his clothes on after he poops either. Like he'll just run around from the bottom down naked. And I'm like, Caleb, you're streaking, buddy. He's streaks.
Okay. So again, you might have to have a separate powerful reinforcer just for getting dressed afterwards. So whatever it is that he really wants the most, he will only get access to that after he puts on his clothes. And you might start with just shorts or just underwear. Like if he's totally naked, start with one thing. You put one thing on and you get your reward. After a couple of days of that, now you got to put on your underwear and your shorts.
Okay.
In order to get that reinforcer.
Yep. Thank you so much, Melissa.
You are very welcome. Please let me know how it goes.
I will.
You got it. Okay. So I'm so sorry we're running out of time here and I want to get to the raffle. So Jen, if we could maybe spin that raffle and see who our winner is for this evening, that would be awesome. We want to see who our raffle winner will be for this evening. All right, here we go. Good luck, everybody. Shirley Ashford, congratulations. You have won a 30-minute one-on-one call with the coach of your choice. Congratulations and enjoy. It's wonderful. Okay, guys, I thank you so much for your attention this evening. This is quite a busy month. I will be doing a presentation. I will be doing a workshop on elopement on June 15th. This is a big issue over the summer and when the kids are on vacation and when they go back to school in the fall. So I always like to do an elopement presentation going into the summer and then going back to school. So I will be doing that on Thursday, June 15th. And for our CFOC parents, I will be doing our parent group on chaining complex behaviors on Thursday, June 22nd. So we'll be talking about teaching a child how to do a complex behavior with a lot of steps like washing hands, dressing, grooming, feeding themselves, etc. So thank you again so much for this evening. I look forward to seeing all of you on another presentation evening. Thanks again so much. Have a good weekend, a great night. Thanks.